let you on.
Yeah. Sit at the back. Okay, so we can just sit here.
Yeah. Let's get the train.
So train going where?
North, I guess. Pretty fun.
Yeah, watch your cats. Some people turn their cats around. Welcome aboard our 101st cruise right here, you guys. The last cruise was the 100th cruise. Well, they got a lollipop. Yeah. But welcome aboard. We do like to start the cruise off just by letting you know that it is a mostly narrated cruise. So if you please be mindful of that when you're talking to your next door neighbor. It's very hard for Captain Bob and I to talk over people. By the end of the 6th cruise or sometimes 9 cruises, we totally lose our voices. So if you can just keep your chatter to a minimum so that we're able to give you history of the river and learn about the ecosystem. Because raise your hand if it's your first time on the Mississippi River. Okay, we got just a couple people here. So lots of you been out here before. Anything you've heard before is all lies. So we're going to give you the truth out here. And right now, Captain Bob is going to give you a little history about this part of the river that we're in right now.
Well, on the plus side, we don't have any babies to cross. That's the biggest problem we got. As we depart here, folks, prior to 1934, this used to be a farm field. Probably had corn, soybeans, whatever the farmer wanted to grow in it. And it was owned by a gentleman named Weiss. That's why it's called Weiss Lake right now. Down from it's called Yonkers Lake, by a fellow by the name of Yonkers. So anyway, so what happened? Where did all the water come from? Well, all the steamboats were coming up here. They were getting stuck out here. They couldn't get their commodities delivered all the way to the Twin Cities. So they decided they went to the government. Well, the government, we need to do something to get anything delivered. So they did. They came in. They built 27 locks of dams. Of course, everybody living along the river decided, oh boy, no more flooding, no more high water. But folks, there's a lot of rain, a lot of water coming down these rivers, this river especially. They just opened all the gates and the lock and dams, let the water flow freely. But keep in mind, the lock and dams are put in for one purpose and one purpose only, strictly navigation. So, although we've been fortunate, we haven't had any bad floods lately. But previously we had. It's never gone over the railroad tracks here. People have always asked, does it ever go over the railroad tracks? It has on the Iowa side, but not here on this side. But another thing too, as far as the overnight passenger boats, last year because of the virus they weren't running at all. This year we've already seen 3 up here. And we're going to have more. I think there's going to be like 6 of them running up here. There's another company, maybe folks have heard one called Viping. Well, all of a sudden the government stepped in with them too. Said no. Tell, there's a law in the United States. It's called the Jones Act. The Jones Act says any boat that plies the inland waterways in the United States has to be built in the United States. The last newsletter I got was they're going to build 4 of them. They'll be up in the... But, they're building them in the United States? Yeah, they're building them in that's the law. They got to build them in the United States. Yeah. Okay, we got that straightened out. Lake. Yeah, they're going to be on the Columbia River, and then here in the Mississippi River and the Ohio River, up in Kentucky Lake. But am I done?
They're all sleeping They always fall asleep when we talk.
Wake up!
Okay, so we're going to head out now. I know you guys all know your left from your right, but do you know your port from your starboard? Because if you sail with Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Holland America, any of those big cruise lines, they don't say the left side of the ship or the right side. They say the port side or the starboard side. And that's how we, when we point, wildlife has a way of hiding from us. So we try to point things out using the analog clock system. Remember in school, we always had the analog. I have grandkids that cannot tell time unless it's digital. They can't tell time on a clock. So when we're pointing things out, the very front of the boat is going to be 12 o'clock. And if we're looking off on the starboard side, it's going to be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock is going to be straight starboard side. If we're looking off on the port side, remember, port 4 letters, left 4 letters. It's going to be 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 9 o'clock straight port side. You'll be surprised how often we point things out. Now, right at 1 o'clock now, I see a great blue heron at 1 o'clock in the boat, just standing right here along the shoreline. Now, we want you or pilots knew that once they spotted Pilot's Knob, that next waterway coming into the Mississippi River was going to be the Galena River, and that was going to be their route to Galena. Beaver Lodge, right here. Now, they just started working on this, 3 o'clock. Brand new. It's only just a week old, and it's at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock now. Look back. But that's going to be huge by next year. It's going to be huge, especially if it doesn't flood out. So, anyway, from the mouth of the Galena River that enters into the Mississippi, all the way to Galena is still 6 miles by river. So, I don't know if any of you all notice we have our mascot on board. You all know what that is. It's a beaver, and we have a name for him. His name is Justin. Justin Beaver. Anybody ever heard of Justin Beaver? Everybody's heard of Justin Beaver. We get a lot of foreigners on the boat. Even the tiny kids all know just 30 and 50 pounds. A large old beaver can get to be 70 to 100 pounds. They can get quite large. Now, the beaver, they generally have 1 litter per year, and that litter consists of between 2 and 6 babies, and their babies are called kits, because when they first discovered the beaver, they thought they looked like kittens, and they are called kits. So, and those, the juvenile or teenage beaver help raise those younger beaver. So we'll talk a little bit more about them later, but they are also known as dam builders. But they can't dam the Mississippi. Heck, we have trouble damming the Mississippi, don't we? But what they do out here, these beaver, is they build different lodges on different islands. A beaver family out here will maybe have around 2 or 3 different lodges. And the reason they build the dams is to keep that water at a constant level in order for them to get in and out of their beaver lodges. But because they can't dam this river, they build different lodges on different islands. And then as the river raises, they'll move to their high water beaver lodge. As it lowers, they move into their low water beaver lodge. So they're constantly remodeling their beaver lodges. And we're going to show you a high water beaver lodge a little later, but because our river's so low, they're not using it. But just to see it, it's really a massive beaver lodge. So we're coming out of the backwaters of the Mississippi. We're coming out into the main channel of the river. Now there are 2 bald eagles over there about 10 o'clock on that dead tree. You can see what look like football shapes. And that's what we look for when we're looking for the bald eagle. And those 2 sitting over there are 2 bald eagles. If anybody has a telephoto lens or binoculars, you'll see that those are eagles. So as we come out here to the main channel, you guys are all looking around and you say, well, how do we know it's the main channel? What makes this different than where we just came from? Well, what you're first going to see if you look down on the port side, it looks like green tin cans in the river. Those are our navigational aids, and they are called buoys. Now, the green ones are called can buoys. They're cut straight across at the top, and they look like a tin can floating in there. If you look way down, you have good eyes, you're going to see the red buoys. Now, the red buoys have a pointed top. They were named after the sisters or nuns years ago. Remember the habits that the sisters lot of grass. It's called celery grass out here. Oh, oh, they look like sandhill cranes.
Yeah.
Sandhill cranes. There they go. Port side, 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Anyway, the terminology they use when navigating these buoys is RRR. Red, right, return. Red on the right, returning to the source. And the source of the Mississippi is where it begins. Anybody ever been to the headwaters? Lake Itasca, Minnesota. You can walk right across the river there. It comes right out of Lake Itasca, and there's a sign up there that says Gulf of Mexico, 2,552 miles. Now, we did have a lady on the last cruise that said, how long does it take for, an average boat to get from the headwaters to the Gulf of Mexico? Well, a lady in a kayak went down in record time this year. It took her just over 55 days by kayak to get from the headwaters to the Gulf of Mexico. Like we said, it all depends upon the flow of the river, whether how much, she's got to wait for a lot, or he or she has to wait for a lot of locks and dams. So there's a lot of ifs, into how long it takes to get there. So if we look off on the starboard side, most of the trees out here are silver maple. They're very water resilient trees, and can withstand flooded waters for extended periods of time and still survive. But the problem with these trees is their roots grow out. They don't grow down into the ground because the water table stays so high. So you'll see a lot of toppled trees right here about 1 o'clock in the boat. It doesn't take much high wind or high water to topple those trees right over.
As we come up here, she was just talking about the red and the green buoys. We're coming up here by a red buoy. If you look behind that red buoy, you're going to see a pile of rocks. Hold the box.
Bald eagle right there. Or no, juvenile. I think it's a juvenile bald eagle. I don't think it has a white head and white tail. Well, these people might want to see an eagle, Bob. Juvenile bald eagle. A juvenile bald eagle.
Where was that? Bob's like, oh,
Red buoys and rocks.
Okay, see, they were listening, Bob. They woke up. They were listening.
We're listening.
They woke up.
Obviously, you can tell that eagles have precedence over anything I say. So, anyway, there's a pile of rocks. And that pile of rocks used to be three things on it. It was called a day and night marker. It was a boat that had three things on it. Then on top of it was a flashing red light. At night it came on. It was solar powered. Then there was a red diamond, and then there's the number on that. The number on it was 561.23. You got off between the spots there. Did I tell you this is the upper Mississippi here? Anyway, the river's divided into two sections, the upper river and the lower river. We're in the upper river here. Anyway, what happened to that pile of rock, to the marker that was on that pile of rock, was in the middle of the winter, about 3 years ago, we had high water in January, which we don't normally have. Keep in mind, the river totally freezes over here. So when we had high water, the volume of water coming down there, with the ice on it, took it right out of there. So the Coast Guard takes care of all the needs of navigation, which are the buoys and markers and anything that marks the river. That's the Coast Guard. If they put that buoy in, obviously they're not going to put the day mark in there. Especially nowadays with all the electronics these barges have on it, that they hardly ever need that anyway. Anyway, that's the upper river. The 561.23 is 561 miles to Cairo, Illinois. It starts the upper Mississippi River. That runs 844 miles from Cairo. Some people call it Cairo, Cairo. Anyway, it's 844 miles to Lock Dam number 1, which is downtown Minneapolis, St. Paul. And that Lock Dam is deteriorating so bad that now the government decided they're not going to use it anymore. There's nothing commercial above there that they have to keep barges up there. So I think last newsletter I got was going to take it out of there. The lower river starts at Pilot Town. Pilot Town is 90 miles below New Orleans. Of course, everybody knows the Mississippi runs from New Orleans up past Baton Rouge, then up Vicksburg, Greenville, Memphis, runs 961 miles to from Provincetown up to Cairo. And that's also where the Ohio River comes in. Now I mentioned Provincetown. Does anybody know what Provincetown is? Provincetown this is international. That any boat coming into any country has to have a pilot on there that is licensed for that part of the incoming canal or river, whatever it is. And so that's what Provincetown is. That's where they stay. As soon as a barge, or it's not a barge, but as soon as a ship comes in there, they got to change captain. Pilot, anyway. That's what Provincetown is. Maybe they never mentioned it before. That's what it is. A lot of people don't know what Provincetown is. But anyway, so that's also where the Ohio comes in at Cairo. And that's put together by two rivers that come together at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And that's the Allegheny River and the Monongahela River come together, and that makes up the Ohio River. And that runs 941 miles. That's the length of the Ohio River. Where it comes in at Cairo. Cairo is very busy right now because they're putting a new staging area in there. Switching barges around, going up the river, down the river. So anyway, I'm going to change the subject for a minute. We're going up the old channel, the one that was here before the lock and dam. It's strictly the old channel where they used to get stuck on it.
Okay, keep your eyes open to these trees. Once in a while we'll see a bald eagle, and the bald eagles do take precedence because they're really exciting to see. They're off the endangered list, but they're still on the protected list only for the fact that they are our national bird. So they're really exciting to see. Now, as you can see off on the port side, you can see that's where the main channel is going. You can see the navigational buoys. Now the towboats have to stay in between that red and green buoy. Now, so as we head up the old channel is where all the steamboats.
When I say this is the one that's right through Van, this island was not here prior to 1934. They had to put the lock of dams in, and the channel changed. So didn't so bad, they just have to keep coming down here and dredging it. It's funny how it's
the same thing.
This place here, the worst of any place is the Mississippi River. Because here, the Upper Beach River anyway. So, anyway, this is all sand and mud.
So, you guys gotta help me look for things too. If you see something, say something. I try to kind of know a lot of times where the birds are going to be hanging out. On the last tour, one of our passengers saw the eagle go down for the fish and take the fish right out of the water. Now that doesn't happen every cruise, so that was kind of exciting. So, yeah, and then the eagle was on a branch eating that fish there. So we're headed up the old channel. Now, the new people, Myers and such, make sure you actually pass it to the next person, because if you lay it down next to you, it's going to blow out of the boat. The beaver lodge is coming. Oh, they just jumped in. Okay. Yep, keep your eyes open. There might be some log turtles here. They like these logs. But you know, they don't come out as much in the shade. Because they like to sun themselves. Yeah, they jump pretty fast when they see the vibration of the boat. But the beaver lodge is going to be at 11 o'clock in the boat. I'm going to keep pointing. I'm going to keep pointing. Now this is that high water beaver lodge. I'll just keep pointing here. It's at 11 o'clock, almost 10 o'clock. Active lodge. Because our water is too low. We consider this a high water beaver lodge. So this water has to get up another 7 feet or so, and they will move their family back into this high water beaver lodge. But that is a huge beaver lodge, and a little later on we're going to show you, try and show you another beaver lodge where they would melt the lead, and they cook that lead down, and then they pour that lead through perforated grates. Now those uniform droplets, hot lead droplets, spiraled and spun all the way to the bottom of the tower. By the time they reached the bottom, they formed a perfect round circle, lead shot ball, They average between 11 and 15 pounds. They can live to be 20 to 30 years old in the wild. Isn't that amazing? Those? Yeah. Now, and they can have over a 7-foot wingspan. Okay, there's one still there yet. Right here, guys. Anybody need a picture? Right there.
Oh, I see.
Feel free to move about the boat, guys, to see it. The boat's not going to capsize or anything. So, the lead rush was on. Lead was discovered here in Galena before gold was discovered out west. It was to be the first mineral rush of what was to become the United States. And the people were coming by steamboat. They were arriving daily. Steamboats filled with people and provisions. The people that wanted to get rich from the lead and the provisions to mine the lead with. So when those steamboats came up, they were loaded, and when they left, they were loaded. When they left, they were loaded with lead ore. There was more lead ore shipped out of Galena than anywhere else in the world at that time. Now all the lead mines are closed around. I don't look down the mine at the museum that they had downtown. Do you guys know that the original museum is still open? I think they were going to move to where Grand Home was. The one on Bench Street.
That street's still open.
It's still open. Okay. Then there you can look down into the mine because I think there was a mine there on Bench Street. Okay, so we are in a slough called Stone Slough. And by a slough, people say what's a slough? A slough is just another waterway through these islands, other than the main channel. But we're going to take you down a little slough called Keyhole Slough. We're going to get off the microphone, look for deer, look for muskrats along the edge of the water, look for turtles. We might see something, we might not see anything. But keep your eyes open. This little tour down Keyhole Slough kind of reminds us of that old movie with Burt Reynolds. Did we get off to the side?
Oh, what is that? Is that a fish?
That old movie with Burt
think it was
Reynolds
just a fish.
called Deliverance.
It's a fish.
Kind of like Deliverance. A lot of people say, how did the deer get out here? Well, deer swim. We have seen swimming deer. We saw a swimming squirrel on last week's tours. But their hair follicles are hollow. So a lot of these animals, $1, just come forward, I'll get you water. But you never know what you're going to see back here.
Open your eyes.
I hope we don't see any evidence.
Go under that bridge where the guy's swinging his banjo. See a turtle? It's a big turtle over here on the water.
He's halfway up
Oh
the
yeah,
tree.
I see him.
Turtles can't climb trees.
He's on the tree. He's gonna dive.
He's a high diving tree.
We see turtles jump our dock down at Chestnut Mountain. They jump down. There it is, right here. Bald eagle, right here. Watch the 12 o'clock. Flying over. Right above the boat now.
Over there. Flying.
on the port side, here's a bare spot right here. That bare spot, oh, their fish just jumped, right? It's a big fish, it was a good sized fish too. But that bare spot is where the beaver get in and out of the water right there. They don't like to go through all this shrubbery either. They have their own paths, and that's where they get in and out right there. It's almost like floating through a bayou or something back here. Okay, last beaver lodge, well, it's right here at 11 o'clock of the boat. Behind this big tree that's overhanging on the water, look and you'll see that big pile of sticks right behind it on the island. That is a huge pile of sticks. That's a huge beaver lodge. But better yet is their path right here, 10 o'clock, almost 9 o'clock. Look at that well-worn path right there where they get in and out of the water. And that beaver lodge is
on the port side over here, there's a remnants of an old beaver lodge. There's not much left of it. The sticks have been leaving rather fast. Now, a little later, we're going to be going by an eagle's nest. Now you know how the eagles make their nest. They come down, they steal from the beaver lodge. If you were an eagle, you'd call it Home Depot.
That's why we don't let Bob tell many of the jokes. Okay, if you look off on the port side, look at all this land out here. Keep in mind, before the locks and dams, this was all farmland. And it was first farmed for thousands of years by the Native Americans. Now, the Native Americans, they were a pretty peaceful people until the discovery of lead ore. And they would be gone on winter camping expeditions they'd be gone in the winter time so that they could trap for furs, only to come back and find out that their land and their homes had been taken over by the new Americans. Now there's a bald eagle, 11 o'clock of the boat, up in that dead tree. Okay, now this is the end of the water tour here. So from here, Captain Bonds, he's going to bring the front end of the boat right up here on this bank, and we're going to open up the gates, and we're going to start walking through this. No, I'm just kidding you. We're going to turn around. But take a look at this broadleaf vegetation. It's called arrowhead plant. It looks like an Indian arrowhead. That is thousands of dollars in fines. Now, the only people that can have the eagle feathers are the Native Americans because they use them for headdress and other decorative things. But you and I wouldn't be able to have a bald eagle feather. So I mentioned the Native Americans doing Three Sisters planting. They planted 3 seeds in one hole: corn, beans, squash. Now, the corn would grow tall, the beans would come up, wrap itself around the stalk of the corn, and when the squash came in, it settled at the base of the corn. Each of those plants gave the other plant the finest nutrients it could have to make it the best plant it could be. So they called it tree. Yeah, big. Now this is a fuller because everyone is expecting to see a bigger animal because we're thinking of those full mink coats, full length. Now this is a natural mink of the area. Now years ago they used to have mink farms. They raised all white mink, all black mink, all red mink, so that they could get a full length coat. But since fur went out of favor,
This one is
now they would have used rabbit fur for the lining and mittens and jackets. And I just bought this at an antique shop because it was homemade.
This one is a
Rabbit.
rabbit.
Raccoon. It looks, I mean, it looks really nice on though. And then we have the poor man's fur. Kick against what the poor man's fur might that be.
Rat. skunk.
I just got this just because I thought it would be fun to have on the boat. It does not stink. It's very thick. It's a great fur.
She wanted to touch it.
It's actually pretty soft.
Oh, beaver. And this one is
Skunk.
skunk. Oh, skunk. Skunk with a
The
stinky.
beaver. The most prized of all the furs was the beaver
This is
fur.
the fur
And
of
here
the
this is.
skunk.
It's very
That's
heavy,
good
very
too.
thick. Then we'll pass around items that you might find in the river today. This is a diamondback mud turtle. This is a painted turtle. They have beautiful breastplates on them.
What is that one?
Oh, it's a sunset turtle.
Would anybody recognize where this horn came from?
Diamondback mud turtle.
Not water buffalo, but bison
What's
buffalo.
inside?
Buffalo. You know. Now they would have traded that, and that would have been used as a powder horn. Remember the frontiersmen who had the powder horn?
What skin is this? Oh,
Anybody recognize this shell? What shell?
this one is
Snapping turtle. This is the famous snapping turtle. They get the diamond-like ridges on their back.
and this one. How about this one? Buffalo.
And then I have the snapping turtle claw.
Oh no, no, this one is. Have you seen this, guys? Have you seen this? This is painted turtle. Painted turtle.
And the most famous part of the snapping turtle is the jaw. I found the snapping turtle jaw. Now this is real. These items have been polyurethane, but feel the jaw, feel the bone.
this?
Now you know why they call it a snapping
Claw? It
turtle.
looks like claws of a
Up
turtle.
on the starboard side, you're going to see two
Turtle.
lugs sticking out of the water. We call those snags. Those were the demise of many steamboats back in the day, because back before the locks and dams, the average depth of the water was only 2 to 4 feet. So the steamboats had to come when the rivers were flooding, because they were getting cargo up and down, so the rivers had to be high. Those logs would have been hidden under the flooded water.
Or shield.
It would have poked a hole in their wooden hulls and sink the
Ah,
steamboat.
now we're done with this one. Thank you.
Yeah, we saw that one. Yeah, we saw that one. Thank you. Go that way over there.
And we're done with that.
I think we saw that one. Can we go? Oh, I want to look at the jaws.
Yeah, the
You see that head?
It's a shield.
I think so.
Snapping turtle.
This thing. Have you seen this one yet?
No, not yet. Yeah, go ahead first.
Yeah, you wouldn't want. She has.
Thank you. Turtle. We're gonna need to take a picture of this.
Now you come back and continue to feed them. Near the locks and dams, because that water stays open below the locks and dams, is turning up fish all the time.
Oh, okay.
And eagles, they can go, 5 days without eating. They have what's called a crop, that they fill that sack underneath
Wait.
their throat, and then they kind of live on that. But I think it all depends. I would not know how many they have in the area.
Not territorial then.
They are territory.
They have
They
their
do
own
have
space.
territory. Yeah. And a lot of times these eaglets are attacked by another eagle from out of the territory. And they're finding out more and more that since they're banding these eagles, just how far they fly. And a lot of them go on vacation after they get rid of the kids. They do. They go on vacation. And sometimes they'll travel up near Duluth or Canada or something like that. So they travel quite a long way. Some of the ways that they made money from the river, when they were dealing with the Native Americans, they not only saw that the Native Americans had furs and lead, but they also had pearls. They were finding pearls in the Mississippi River in our clam or mussel population here. Now, not every clam or mussel had a pearl. Some of them, maybe 25 to 30 of them may have had some type of pearl. It might have been elongated, misshapen. The only ones that brought the money were the perfect round pearls, or those pearls that may have had some color like lavender, emerald green, or something like that. So the new Americans thought they would try and find some of these pearls. But more often than not, all they ended up with was a huge pile of shells. Now I'm going to pass around a couple different shells, and I'm going to pass them all down this side first, and you guys bring it back up, and you can stockpile my stuff for a while. I appreciate it, and then I'll come and get it here. But this first shell that I'm going to pass around is the shell of yesteryear. We believe it to be over 100 years old. We had a couple geologists on the boat. I don't mind being corrected. I'd like to give out correct information. They estimated this to be about 100 years old. They gotta blame all of us. Who's gotta have the first?
No? Oh, let me see.
So the new Americans thought they would try their hand at finding pearls, but instead they ended up with this huge pile of shells. They thought, what could we make out of those shells? So I looked this up. Does anybody know what they made out of the buttons? They made buttons. Then the button factories opened up along the river. Now, before they were buttons, they were blanks. So that shell that's coming around with the holes cut out, those were blanks that were cut out. They were blanks before they were buttons. A lot of what they thought were button factories in these Mississippi River towns were really blank factories. They just blanked them out, and then when they got thousands and thousands of blanks, they sent the blanks to the true button factories, where they make the real buttons like these that I have here. I used to be able to get this stuff in antique shops, but now that's getting far and few between. You can't find this stuff anymore. And for some reason, my stock always gets less and less. I actually have people taking a button out. I don't know. So I don't have as many as I used to have. And then here is a pearl. Now my pearl is misshapen, elongated, so don't try
Well, the trees, but it's a space, and that's kind of snap.
Oh, that down there? Oh,
Yeah, just so you know you're,
Coming down
that's the
here.
last channel till,
There he is, left here, like I said, about a month ago, and all this is fresh sand out here now. It's all fresh new material. That's kind of interesting the way they did this. Oh, by the way, there's one of these sea monsters. That sea monster used to stand alone there.
Well, it's like a,
It was like sand that
It's a sandbar, they call it.
pretty clean channel right here. But anyway, it's changed.
I think if you have your private.
So bad right here that we're at. Back when they got that dredging here, they took these red buoys here, they moved it in about 250 feet. Used to be out here, 2 barges are not past here now they can. But downbound barge always has the right of way here. So what happens with northbound barges, they'll park down here for 5 feet items over here. Wait for the southbound barge to move here. Rowboats here jumped in the Mississippi River are allowed to push 15 barges, and that's done by the Corps of Engineers too. They determined that 15 barges is all they allow to go through the Lock Dam. And that's called a double cut. The Lock Dam only holds 9 barges, so they have to break that barge in half. It takes about 2.5 hours to lock through. You can't have any more than 15.
Okay, now, if you guys want a great, spectacular photograph with your sister's summit here, or family reunion, or your loved ones or friends here, Chestnut Mountain has 2 fabulous overlooks. And both of those overlooks are like looking at the river by airplane. I'm not kidding you. Spectacular overlook. Take a walk past that white tent. It's only maybe 2 or 3 blocks out there. Just a spectacular photo. North Grandview Point. The second one is called South Grandview Point. That is Galena that are part of